What a joy to be here today, especially for this occasion. We are celebrating the arrival of so many baby boys in our family. It's just one joy after another. You see two cradle crosses on the altar up here, and one of them is for Philip Alexander Clayton, and the other is for my other little great nephew, Preston Dunbar Brittain. So we have yet another baby boy to go along with Walker and Andrew to celebrate. I had to get down here and get my hands on those babies, and so they just let me preach while I was here. But I was thinking about it as we were celebrating, and Daddy was talking in children's time. You know, you just can't get too much baby. And that's certainly the way it is in our family. We just can't get too much baby. And I thought that would be a good Christmas card title. You just can't get too much baby. Unfortunately, often at Christmas time, we got other things pushing the baby out. And we need to get back to that realization that Christmas is really about that baby. And we just can't get too much of the baby in Christmas and the focus of it. You know, our family got used to, over the years, having our Christmas celebration linger on. Really came after Christmas with all the preachers in the family. We couldn't get together till after Christmas, so it always came after Christmas. In fact, our sons never thought about Christmas happening until at least after the last 11 o'clock Christmas Eve communion service. You know, we couldn't be attending to anything else because we were all dealing with Christmas Eve communion services. And so when Riley and Jenica, who are here with us for the big occasion too, from out of Seattle, when they got married and they were, you know, making those tough decisions that newlyweds are made, where are we going to spend what? Riley said, Jenica, you don't have to worry about it. My family doesn't even celebrate Christmas till after Christmas, so you can have Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. There's no argument about it. And I kind of like it because it means when other people are finishing up, the Brittains are just getting started with the celebrating. But the truth is, nobody should be in a hurry to pack up Christmas. And those who first kind of set up our structure for celebrating Christmas in the church seem to have felt that way too, because they saved part of the traditional Christmas story to be celebrated over in January, Epiphany. We call it Epiphany, but it's when we remember the presence of those most unexpected faces that gathered to worship the baby Jesus. The foreign faces, the magi, the wise men, the visitors from the east. There's a wonderful song that celebrates their coming. We're going to use it to guide us through this sermon. We're going to sing the first verse now. It's number 254. If you don't have your hymn books open, just open them to 254. You just can remain seated as we sing. We'll sing it one verse at a time. So let's sing the first verse of We Three Kings. Focus more on Mary and the shepherds, the book of Matthew more on Joseph and the wise men. We read about their story in the 2nd chapter of Matthew. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at his rising, and we have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage. When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Now, when we begin to ask and answer the question, what was God doing when he brought these faces to the manger, we will discover that this is far more than a birth story. We will discover that with the appearance of these faces, the writer of Matthew tells us not only that the Messiah has been born, Matthew tells us exactly who and what that Messiah is intended to be. This is really the first revelation or manifestation of Christ to the world. Now, plenty of others are going to follow, at the temple with the scholars, at the Jordan with the dove, up on the mountain at the transfiguration, and on and on. But this is the first, here, where foreign kings bend knees to worship a child. Matthew is telling us that Jesus has come for all the world, for believers near and far. Their appearance raises the questions, just who is this Jesus, and what role is he meant to play? Now this morning I want to modify that question as we stand right here on the threshold of a new year, 2014. Here's the question I think we need to ask to keep us on the right path. Just who is this Jesus, and what role is he intended to play? Not in the world, mind you, not in history, not even in the Bible. Well, there are all kind of good answers to those questions. But here's the question I'm asking. Who is Jesus to you? And what role does Jesus play in your life and in mine? See, I ask those questions because I believe that Matthew's ancient and beloved story of visitors from the East can help us answer those questions today if we can somehow dig down past the nostalgia and tradition and sentiment just long enough to see those visitors and their gifts as if for the first time. So let's give it a try. And we're using, as I said, these familiar words from this beloved Christmas carol to help us along the way. Now, no one actually knows for sure. We just assumed there were 3 visitors because, well, there are 3 gifts. There could have been 2 visitors and 3 gifts. There could have been 10 visitors and 3 gifts. But traditionally, because there were 3 gifts, we've just always assumed there were 3 visitors. And the first of those gifts is gold. A gift fit for a king. Let's sing about that gift. It's in verse 2. For you to give Jesus the role of king in your life in 2014. Now there are, of course, 2 kings in the story. There's this baby in Bethlehem's manger, and there's Herod on Jerusalem's throne. Both are kings. And the visitors are finally forced to choose between the 2. Will they honor Herod, who earth has declared to be king, or will they honor this baby who heaven has declared king? It is, in fact, an eternal choice. We are forever choosing between the Herods of this world and the King sent from heaven. And listen to me, beloved, try as we might, we cannot serve both. You know, we Americans, we really aren't all that familiar with kings. The idea of kings and queens really exists more in our fairy tales than it does in our day-to-day lives. But I want to suggest to you this morning that kings are actually very much alive and well in our society. We just call them by other names. Because you see, a king is that person or that thing in our lives that both demands and receives our primary allegiance. In other words, your king is the one you serve. Your king is that person or that thing that you serve. And listen to me now, kings are extremely jealous. That was Herod's problem. He was jealous. He was absolutely unwilling to share his power. He was unwilling to share the allegiance, the loyalty of the Jewish people. So he saw this baby in Bethlehem as a threat. And so his response, destroy the threat. Seek out the baby and eliminate the baby's claim upon the hearts and the lives of the people. Now, folks, other Herods have been doing the same thing ever since. Seeking to destroy the threat that comes with the Christ and eliminate his claim upon the hearts and the lives of his people. Who are the Herods of this world? Well, I believe that could be anyone or anything that seeks to eliminate or even lessen the claim of Jesus on your heart and on my heart. It may be your job. It may be that asks you or requires you to do things that are counter to the demands of Christ. It may be your lifestyle, always having to have more, one more outfit, a better car, a finer home that causes you to spend money which rightfully should be used for kingdom work. It might even be your hobbies, the way you spend time, leaving little or no time for serving the true King. Or it may be, and this is probably the most difficult, it could be even someone you love, someone whose claim upon you threatens to make you less of a person than God calls you to be. Oh, listen, beloved, Herod wears many disguises and lurks around every corner. Over and over again, we will all be forced to choose. And one of the ways we do that, choose Jesus as King, is serve Jesus. So if you've not already found your way to be serving in the kingdom of Christ, let the church help you do that. Find a way to serve Jesus in the church and through the church. I tell the members of my church, so I'll just tell you too, everybody who's a member of a church should not hesitate if asked the question, how do you serve Jesus? We shouldn't even have to take a breath. We should immediately be able to say, well, I serve Jesus in my church by, and start naming things. I serve Jesus in my church by singing in the choir, ushering at the church, teaching Sunday school, serving on a committee, and on and on and on the list goes. We should all be able to name one, hopefully many things we do in our church that makes our church stronger and more effective. But we should also be able to name something that we do through the church that serves beyond the church and makes the world a better place. I serve Jesus through my church by helping out at the clothes closet, going on mission trips, serving at a helping hand, and on the list goes. There's no end to the answer. The question is, are you serving Jesus? If not, let your church help you because, friend, it is just this simple. The one you serve is your King. Say what you want to, but the one you serve is your King. And the one I serve is my King. Who do you serve? Who's your King? Born a king on Bethlehem's plain. Gold I bring to crown him again. And then the second verse, the second gift, frankincense. Let's sing about that.
One
a typical baby gift. Not now, not then. Frankincense was an incense that was used by the priest. It was burned as part of worship. Incense was believed to be a way of reaching into heaven, of reaching God. So, what is the message here? This baby was to be more even than king. He had come to be priest as well. So, what would it mean for you to give Jesus the role of priest in your life in 2014? Now, in that society, really for generations to follow, the common man or woman was believed to have no direct link to God. That connection was handled for them by priests, the high priest who offered sacrifices in their name. It was handled by scribes who interpreted God's law, and the Pharisees who helped them kind of apply the law to their everyday lives. But the coming of Jesus changed all that, because Jesus taught his followers to actually pray on their own. Jesus called his followers friends of God. He told his followers they were children of God, told them that they could call God Abba, Father, actually Daddy. Jesus was the new priest, the new link, and he became a direct link from the heart of the human straight to the heart of God himself. If you haven't already, you soon will begin packing up all those Christmas decorations. I don't know. I just don't think that's as much fun as unpacking them. I don't know if you, but you know, I'm afraid that's exactly what many of us do with God's great Christmas gift. We open it, we ooh and ah over the generosity of the giver. We express our great appreciation and talk about what a wonderful gift it is. And then, we just get back to life as normal. We put that gift up, and we never put it to the use for which it was intended. For you see, Jesus Christ came to be our priest, your priest and my priest. Why? Well, so we could have this direct relationship with God. And friend, there's just no way around it. That takes time and that takes energy. All relationship is just daily. That's the problem with relationships. They're daily. They take time and energy. So if Jesus Christ is truly your priest, then you will be in a daily relationship with God, investing your time, investing your energy. See, too many of us want to say real quick yes to God and then just get back to life as usual. It doesn't work that way. In fact, I think that learning to live with Jesus as a priest is a lot like a child learning to read. Now, Riley learned to read in the first grade. I'm not sure how all this is handled now, but back then it worked like this. The first thing he did was come home with these word lists, all these different words. Then, after a little while, he would bring home books that we were supposed to read to him. Then, he started bringing home these one-word books. You know, lots of pictures, but the same word over and over again, that he would, of course, read. Then, slightly more complicated books. Then just before Christmas, Riley brought home this blank piece of paper. Across the top, it wasn't completely blank. Across the top was written title, date, and then listener. And what we had to do was he would read a book, we'd put the title, the date it was written, and then the person who listened to him read had to sign off on it, you know. And there were 14 numbers down the side, 14 books. Well, Riley set about the completion of that task with a passion. I mean, every day he would call for someone to help him read. We were searching our shelves for books that he could manage. I was proud of him because reading wasn't easy for him, but he worked at it with a fury. I mean, 10 books, then 12, finally 14. Riley could not wait to go to school that day and turn in that list. He was one of the first in the class to do so. We were all championing him. Then that afternoon, now we lived in the country on a dirt road and we had a long driveway, gravel driveway, and the bus would pull up to our driveway and let Riley off. I was watching out the window for the bus. It stopped. Riley got off the bus, and even from a distance, you could tell from his entire body how depressed he was. He got off the bus. He just dropped his backpack on the gravel. And he kicked his backpack all the way to the back door. It took 20 minutes for him to make it up the driveway. I watched the whole time. When he got to the back door, I opened the door and I said, "What in the world is wrong with you?" He didn't say a word. He didn't even look at me. He just held up another blank page with 14 spots on it. You see, I was confused at first, but then I realized Riley thought there was just one piece of paper. He didn't know that there would just keep coming another sheet and another sheet and another sheet to fill out. Well, I'm afraid that's what a lot of us think about our walk with God. We can't hurry it up. We can't say all the prayers, read all the verses, attend all the worship services, and just check it off, done. Doesn't work that way. If you give Jesus the role of priest in your life, then you will make time for him every single day, day by day by day. Prayer and praising, voices raising, worshiping God on high. And then the final gift, myrrh, a fragrant ointment used to dress bodies for burial. Let's sing about that. Not something that you would find on every new mother's wish list. Myrrh was very valuable and precious. Owning ointment for one's burial was a sign of great wealth and importance. Still, it seems an odd gift for a baby. I mean, right here, so close to birth, just beginning life, why turn our thoughts to burial and death? But beloved, this is the cold, hard truth. That baby in Bethlehem was, in fact, born to die. Jesus Christ came to be a sacrifice. So, you tell me, what would it mean for you to give Jesus the role of sacrifice in your life? Now, we are called to serve Jesus as our King, and we're called to worship God through Jesus as our priest. But finally, neither of those acts nor any other act we do can save us. It is, my friend, the simple acceptance of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross that is our way to salvation. And that sacrifice did not begin with the first nail or the first trickle of blood from the cruel crown. The sacrifice of Jesus didn't start with the stripes upon his back or the betrayal of his friends. No, the sacrifice began so much earlier, before the conflict with authorities, before the misunderstanding of his family, before the wilderness, even before the baptism. The sacrifice of Jesus Christ began right there in Bethlehem. The myrrh, the ointment of death, came not one day too soon. For you see, friends, Jesus came to be a sacrifice. In his death, yes, but also in his living. Jesus died on Calvary, was made a sacrifice on the cross, but Jesus chose to die to self every single day to make his living a sacrifice. And we are called to do the same. Take up your cross daily and follow me. Accepting Jesus Christ as our sacrifice would mean to accept that way of sacrificial living for ourselves in 2014. To die every day so that we too might live forever. And how do we do that? Well, it's spelled out pretty clearly in his words. By denying self, by simply saying no to ourselves so we can say yes to God. Folks, don't you see? When we're so busy meeting our own needs, our wants and desires, we don't have time and space left to say yes to God. Every life of sacrifice begins with a yes and a no. A no to self and a yes to God. It means daring to join Christ on Good Friday, sealed in a stone-cold tomb. Why? Well, that brings us to the final verse of this Christmas carol. Let's sing that together. Song, doesn't it? When you think about it, we're all the way to Easter. And yet that's exactly what the presence of these kings and their strange gifts calls us to remember. We must enter the tomb on Friday so that we can rise with Christ on Sunday. Knees bent, gifts presented, those foreign visitors worshiped the child as king, priest, and sacrifice. And then they rose and traveled home by another road. That is what happens to those who find their way to the manger. Having knelt before the Christ, lives are changed and new roads are traveled. And it can even happen to you and me if we dare to accept this child in the manger as our king, our priest, and our sacrifice. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.